All right, here we go. So we'll get rocking and rolling. All right, so I'm going to take a shot at your last. Is it Koehnemann?
Koehnemann, yep.
Yeah, I knew it. Josh Koehnemann and Rauchel Koehnemann.
Yep, that's
All
right.
right, how are you both doing
Good.
today?
Real good.
Thank you both for taking the time. Obviously, I always appreciate it. It maybe sounds a little fucked up, a little bit more whenever I'm sitting down with like high performers and like business people, because you have so much to do in a given day. Like I walk in here, there's photo shoots going on. You're talking with people. I'm sure you're out like doing something because you weren't here at the time.
Right.
You walked in. So thank you so much for taking that time. Since I have both of you, whenever I have two people, it'll be easier to distinguish your voices. Obviously, we have a man and a woman, but I'm going to let you each kind of introduce yourself so that way the listeners can put the name with the voice, and then just you can kind of tell them just a little quick background about yourself.
Sure. I'll let my wife go first.
Hi, I'm Rauchel. Thanks so much for having us. We're excited to be on your podcast and just kind of explain what we do. And I'm curious the questions you're going to ask. But Josh and I have been in the business. This is K-Build's 20th year in business. Personally, I've been more on the products and design side for about 16 years. And so that's my side of the business is the products. I do all the book work and manage the office and try to keep up.
I'm sure you wear a lot of different hats.
That's for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely no one title that would encompass everything you do.
And my name's Josh. As you know, the last name's Koehnemann. We own K-Build here in St. Peters, Missouri. We're based here, but we do most of our work, I'd probably say, in St. Louis. And like she said, 20 years in business, 4 children, and just trying to get better every day and growing our team. And basically and I'm sure we'll get into this, but like my goal is to literally find my max potential and help all of our team members and all of our employees find their max potential as well as I find mine. So
Yeah.
I push them to be their best every single day.
Yeah, and that's potential is like one of those weird things, right? Because I've found that like I'm always trying to learn and I'm always trying to improve myself. The more I learn, I feel like I don't know anything.
Right.
So it's like
It's almost like you go backwards.
yeah, like the bar just
And
keeps
forward.
getting raised. Like, is it possible to reach your potential, you think? Or, I mean, you
I
know
don't
what
know
mean?
about that. I just want to make sure that I don't let anything that I'm supposed to do not get undone while I'm here.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's totally fair. So let's go back to the beginning a little bit because you mentioned you being in business for 20 years. Let's start there. Like, take me back to when it started. I know we talked
Okay.
about it a little bit on the phone.
Well, I would basically start with, I would just go all the way back to school.
Yeah.
High school. I basically just could not stay in school, but I did really well in weightlifting, woodworking, and art class and math. And that was the probably 3 subjects I got, ace every one of them. Obviously, how do you ace weightlifting, and then the other subjects I completely failed because I just didn't care. It wasn't because I couldn't have done it. It's because I just didn't care.
Right.
So basically I went all 12 years of high school and ended up moving to the Lake of the Ozarks that senior year with all my buddies that graduated, and I didn't graduate because I was 2 credits short. So we went down, lived at the Ozarks. We're paying full rent for, straight out of my parents' house into my own living quarters with buddies, paying rent, having a full-time job. And then I had to go back to school the next year. And I went there, and I had to go. The classes that I was short was some freshman classes, but I was already a year old for my grade.
Yeah.
And then I was like 19 going into these classes that kids were coming out of 8th grade. And I already had some real life experience in the sense of like living on my own and stuff.
Right.
And I literally got in my truck at lunch or my car and just at lunch break and just left and just drove straight past the security guard, beeped at him while he was trying to stop me. And I just went straight to my dad's work and where he had his own company. He's a scientific glassblower.
Okay.
And I was just like, Dad, I need a job. And he's like, well, you're going to either have to get in a trade or you're going to have to go back to college or school so you can go to college or get a GED. And I was like, well, I'm not going back to school. So I guess I worked at his shop part-time while I got into the Carpenters Union. And this was all in 96.
Okay.
And I went to the Carpenters Union, got an apprenticeship as a carpenter because I liked building things,
Yeah.
speaker boxes and stuff when I was in school, and it just kind of took off from there. I just decided that this is what I want to do, was make money.
Yeah.
And so I decided to just work side jobs, normal work, and then I figured out real quick that really wasn't, like, I didn't really like doing the 9 to 5 or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
I wasn't really into that, working for somebody and not fulfilling my potential. And I could see it back then. So then I started my own business by literally just taking a side job and making it a full-time job.
Yeah.
So I left the Carpenters Union, started my own business, and that was 20 years ago. And from there, I was by myself, grinding it every day. Then I think I got my little brother to start working with me, and we were side by side doing each job, each bathroom or kitchen or whatever, and we just built our business off of literally referrals and doing just phenomenal work, like to the best of our ability, and taking care of our customers. And that's really what it's all about. But it really wasn't till, because you can work hard all day long and not be successful, even because everybody works hard.
Yeah,
And
a lot of people work hard to turn
Well,
the wheels.
I wouldn't call it everybody works hard.
A lot of people work hard, and then they wonder why. But it's like, you have to take your talent and your potential and your hard work, and you got to put it together and figure out what you're good at and stick to that niche and just drive your feet in the ground. And it might not, there's no instant gratification.
Yeah.
So it's just, then you just start digging and you just go. And so that's when we were doing that, and I would say I was still doing pretty well.
Yeah.
But not until I met Rauchel, and she took us to a whole nother level of the retail side.
Yeah.
Into the business, plus and that was 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, we have really expanded the business and grown the employees, and I think we're up to 29 now.
So what you're saying is it's my fault.
It's either your fault or it's because of you, one of the two.
However you want to
Just
look at
kidding.
it.
Yeah.
Take all the credit.
Yeah.
So how many employees did you guys have, so prior to Rauchel coming on, how many?
6.
Just 6, okay. Yeah, and then since then you've quadrupled.
Right.
Yeah.
About 30 now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's huge. Yeah, you said a lot of interesting things throughout that process, because one, I feel like we don't push enough trade schools in today's society, especially here in the Midwest, right? You're always told that, I know, I'm just on my soapbox from my experience, but it's like, if you don't go to school and you don't go to college, you're going to be a loser. And people make you feel that way. What are you doing? What are you doing? Don't you have it figured out by now? You're 18 years old. You don't have it figured out by now?
Trades are dogged down, for sure.
Right. You know what I mean? But meanwhile, you have people who go to trade school and they learn a skill, and they don't come out of school with hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. And
Well, he says all the time that, we go into attorneys' houses, but we're doing something they can't do.
Right.
So, they don't also have our skills. So use your skills to your advantage,
Right.
not to your detriment.
Yeah, double down on your strengths.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Half of our clients are lawyers, doctors, big CPAs, and the funny thing is that they don't have the talent, and maybe they do, but that's not where they've,
That's not
driven their
focus.
talent. That's not their focus, so they hire us.
Right.
And so I've learned from being a carpenter is we can build, as you see in this building,
Yeah. This
anything
is an
that
immaculate office.
your brain can imagine, you can build it, right? So that's where I found my little niche, is just to build whatever I want. If I want it, work for it, get it. If you can think of it,
We
and
can
if I
probably
can,
do it.
yeah, I can probably do it. And if I can outthink myself to build the next great house or the next great project, or just outdo myself on the next, remodel, that's what we love to do.
Just keeps growing.
Yeah. So from what I'm hearing, you don't overcomplicate it. You just do it.
Right.
It's actually, it's kind of complicated, the process, because there's so many details and so
Yeah.
many things that can go wrong, but it really is about simplifying something that's so complicated.
Yeah.
And then executing with such a T to cross your T's and dot your I's and make sure that everything's perfect.
So could you walk me through what is the process? So somebody comes to you, they say, Josh, Rauchel, I want to build a house, or I want to remodel my house. Walk me through that process. What all is involved? I know there's so many little things there. The details matter, and
When
you guys
a-
pay attention to the details.
When a customer comes, most of our clients are referral repeat customers. And so we direct them to our website, kbuildit.com.
Okay.
Well, that's our email, but kbuildit.com is our website. And so there's a question, like an inquiry, client inquiry. And so it'll go through a series of questions. So there's things I want to know, like what's the scope of work? What are you wanting done in your house? You know, what is your budget? Pictures, I'll have them request pictures of their house as it is now. What would you like to change about it if you want your sink move across the room? Those are budget drivers, right? So from the pictures and the questions that I'm asking, I can have a phone conversation with them ahead of time and say, you know, I haven't measured anything. Don't quote me on this. This isn't a quote, but generally, I think your budget needs to be $50,000. But you said $30,000 is what you wanted to spend.
Yeah.
So we're in two different ball games here. So maybe you were nervous about what you wanted to tell me your budget was, and you realistically knew that's about where it was going to be, or you had no idea, and is it realistic for us to move forward then?
Yeah.
So first we got to like feel them out, see where they're at,
Yeah.
get a game plan.
See if you guys are good for each other, right? So what you're
Right.
telling me is you guys aren't the cheapest.
No,
Okay, so the thing is that what makes us different.
we're definitely not the cheapest, but
Right.
when's the last time?
And that's what I was getting at,
Yeah,
right?
is
Because
the-
that's where quality comes into
Yeah.
play, right? You know what I mean?
But here's where the difference is like generally where contractors have gotten a bad name is they come in and they'll give you these general budgets.
Yeah.
And they'll say, okay, for your projects, I'm going to give you $5,000 budget for cabinets. When in fact, that wouldn't cut it for your cheapest cabinet. And so when you sign up with him, you're thinking like, oh, great, my project is going to cost $30,000 because that's what my contractor told me. And he probably knows because he knows more than I do about this business. This is his industry.
Yeah.
And so he tells them, you know, here's a budget for this, a budget for this. Now go shopping. And I want a deposit for my work to hold you on the calendar. Well, now they've got some level of commitment to them, but they really don't know where the projects are going to land
Right.
or the products are. And so from the beginning, they have a false sense of expectation. And so if I went in and I was put my quote to theirs to be able to garner that job or that remodel, his is going to beat me in price. But mine is so accurate to exactly what you're getting. Like the benefit to our store is they can come in, they pick what they want with me,
Right.
and then we can adjust the selections. But it's all accurate to what you're getting, not this general budget that isn't realistic.
Right.
So our quotes don't look the same because his is not any level of accurate.
Yeah, it doesn't have all the details, right? That's
Right.
when a contractor comes back and is like, oh, well, we ran into this and we ran into that. And it's like,
Because he hasn't gone through all the details.
never thought about it at
And
all.
so at the end of the day, I don't think that we actually end up costing so much more. Just out of the gate, we're realistic about what it's going to cost.
That makes sense.
Because that's how I would want to be treated.
Yeah. And the way, like, so what I'm thinking is I've always heard, like, you can get things done, like, good, cheap, and fast. You can get two of the three, right? So if it's what is it? If it's good and fast, like, it's not going to be cheap. Like, you have to pay for quality, and
Right.
you guys obviously do quality work, so that's what you pay for.
But we don't put our name on anything that I won't guarantee forever.
Yeah.
Like if
Standards.
Yeah, I mean, from houses I built 5 years ago, or we flip houses in the West County area, and we sell these houses to someone. It's a used home, but we sell it to them brand new again. And if they decide to call me, you know, and they have a party on a Saturday, and we weren't selling with them, we were dealing with agents, but they found out who we are, and everyone finds out who we are they look us up, and they start following us. And, you know, your name's on it. So therefore, like, we had a customer call us on a Friday night 2 weeks ago, and he's like, hey, he just texted, or he hit us up on Instagram because that's how he started following us. And he has a huge following. He's a big business here in St. Louis, and he has a huge following. So you never know who's going to take your house. So you always want to put your best foot out, because social media can
100%.
make or break you anyways.
Yeah.
So as much as we have no legal obligation for K-Build, for our namesake,
Yeah.
we have an obligation to
Yeah.
go further than what what the normal expectations would be.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's just like, where do I find a hose? I got a birthday party for my kid
His sink broke, something on his sink broke.
so I call my rep, and my rep's awesome, and he from Ferguson, he had a faucet to me at 7:30 or 8 on a Friday night to my home. And then after I got done working out at 5 on Saturday morning, I had a faucet in Baldwin at 7 on his doorstep. So he had it for his party the next day.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, it was just saying, hey, look, here, take it. No charge, just hopefully you have a great party. I'm sorry about that this busted a year later, but that's the thing, is our name's on it. So if my name's on it, you're going to get the best product.
Right. You're just trying to do the right thing.
Right.
Whether it's convenient or...
Well, it's going above and beyond. So at the end of the day, it's more important for us that our clients are happy. I mean, there's money to be made with all the products and all the labor and everything that goes into it. But at the end of the day, I'll lose money before we leave a customer unhappy.
That's powerful. That's a real powerful statement.
Yeah.
So you say you'll lose money before you'll leave people unhappy, right? So that just says like how committed you are to like providing the best service and like the best build out for your customers. Yeah, experience.
Ultimately. Because at the end of the day, if a product fails or if they're not happy with something, it hangs on to them.
Yeah.
It's their house. It's so personal. And so if we can just make it right and they can move forward in their life, and that's not, you're a bigger hero for fixing it.
Yeah.
We're not the cheapest, we're the most thorough, down to the details. So the reason that we're not the cheapest is because I want to make sure the details are done. So I need the money to make sure the details are done. So therefore, at the end, our bid might be a little higher, but the end product's totally different.
100%.
It's kind of like, as Andy Frisella says, when's the last time the cheapest product is the best product?
Never.
Right.
Yeah, and at that point, if like then it just becomes a commodity, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a stickler for the details, down to the smallest little thing. It's almost like weird how like I pay attention to little things.
Right.
So like whenever I walk in here, like and then I see like the brick on the inside, and then like just all the little things like the molding and everything. It's just like you guys take like the time to pay attention to the detail, and that just says pride, right? Like in your work.
Yep.
So Rauchel, so you say you're in the product side, like for 16 years before you came over here. What attracted you to this business?
Originally, I always knew, even from like being so young, I knew I loved houses. So like I could drive around and look at houses. If I was with my parents driving around, I was always curious about the houses.
Yeah.
And so like I just grew up with, my dad was a carpenter, so that probably had a lot to do with it. So I'd be, doing side jobs with him. I'd go over and sweep or clean his job site, or I had my own set of tools in the basement
nice.
While he's working on his stuff for work or his side jobs, I'd have my own little saw and working on my own projects. And so I think that's where the love for this industry started, for sure. But kind of a similar story as Josh, except I was homeschooled through high school.
Okay.
But I decided I wanted to go back, and I don't know, it just wasn't the best experience. I hated school too.
Yeah.
So we both ended up with no high school diplomas.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a funny, that's how it landed for both of us.
Yeah.
But I was homeschooled through the rest of high school and just never took the test to call it official and finished.
Right.
So we were both on the cusp, but
Yeah.
never
I
finished.
think college is great if you're going for something that requires it directly.
Right.
But, everyone that I personally know that went to college doesn't even use what they went to college for.
Ditto, like me included. So that's why I like hearing your story, and I like to get it out there for the listeners, because like I was good at school, and it just was real easy, because to me it was just like a system. And like honestly, I had friends I would like get homework from and I would cheat off of and stuff like that.
Right.
Like they frown upon that, but I just look at that as like I'm just using my resources wisely, and we're working together.
One of my best friends was 2 years older than me. He worked at Amico, the gas station up at Kisker there.
Okay.
He was a night shift. I would pay him to do my homework because he was like a genius. And I'd wake up, pick it up in the morning on the way to school.
That sounds like a good skill, right?
So
I mean, that's
ridiculous.
Yeah, and we still work together every day. Today, he's like, we've been friends for life. So he works with us here at K-Bill, but like he's
Exactly.
like one of my right-hand men, like literally. But he is like so book smart. And I was like, Steve, whatever I got to do to pay you to do my homework. And he used to do it.
Exactly.
So, on the subjects that I was bad at. You know what I mean?
I think that's just a good life skill.
So for me, it was like a love for the industry, love for what I saw my dad doing. It was like I always love about this industry that it's so hard. Like if you love it, it's going to be damn hard to get bored. Yeah. Because every house has a new set of challenges. Every house has a different elements, but there's still structure around it, that there's parameters. And like most projects, if it's going to be a kitchen or a bathroom, it's going to have cabinets. It's going to have plumbing fixtures. Like there's parameters within it, but it's still ever changing.
Yeah.
And the products are always changing, and the finishes on the hardwood floors or whatever the case may be, like you can get a constant education. So I love that it is constantly changing. but I knew at the beginning I thought like, okay, when I started going to college and everything, I'm like, okay, I want to do interior design. That makes sense because I love houses, so
Yeah.
I'll be an interior designer. And so before, when I was kind of doing undergrad classes, I'm so thankful, and for listeners, like the best thing that I can encourage people to do is if you're not sure and you're starting to go to school, go get a job in that industry to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
So I went and worked for an interior designer as her assistant and found out extremely quickly that I absolutely hated it.
Yeah.
So like I hated picking drapes for curtains,
Yeah.
the fabrics and the candle holders and the furniture. Like it was just all these small details that were like, I feel like they're so personal. It just isn't for me to pick all of those things out.
Okay.
And so the things in a house did not excite me, whereas the house itself did.
Right.
And so I happened to, from there, fall into a position at a flooring store, helping him out with some paperwork. And then the owner gave me a shot at helping her with some products, and that was like, I was off and running
Rest
then.
is history.
Yeah, I fell in love with it. Like, I'm
Yeah.
obsessed.
Now, was your dad, was he also an entrepreneur or?
No, he worked in the union
Okay.
whenever I was growing up, but at the same token, he always had a side job. So some nights, a lot of weekends, and it was work and kids. There was
Right.
4 of us in my family as well.
Okay.
And so he would walk in the door and be climbing on the floor playing with us. But when he wasn't doing work, he was at a side job,
Yeah.
if whatever. So I just go with him a lot.
Right. So you saw like what it takes, like day in and day out, like the long days, right?
Yep.
Yeah, because a lot of people miss that. So you both had like entrepreneurial families. Like he may not own his own business, but like you said, he had side
He
jobs.
still
He was
found the
constantly
work and
working.
everything. Mhm.
Right. So I think that's it's like just such a good example. I try to do that with my kids. I have 2 kids, so it's like I don't go to a typical office like a 9 to 5 every day, but they see me like constantly working. You know what I mean?
Right.
I like to say like work is a thing you get to do, not a place you have to go.
Right.
Because so many people just associate work with like I just have to go to this office and clock in. And
It's so different when you are obsessed with what you do.
Yeah.
Like every day, like I have a hard time leaving.
Yeah.
I love my kids and I can't wait to get home. But at the same time, I feel torn because I like want to finish whatever I'm doing because I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And so it never feels
I don't
like
even
work.
have an office in this entire building. Like I literally will sit down somewhere and work. I'll either be in my truck, I'll be on a job site, or I'll just
did.
come in and sit at one of the other stations, like one of the tables, and
Yeah.
we'll go through, get done what we need to do, and I'm back out the door. Like
He
I
did
don't.
tell me when we were doing the renovation, like, this is our office. He kept telling me that about what is my office. And then now I was like, well, and then it all came into play, and I'm like, it's a controlled chaos paperwork
Yeah.
system. And so we have so many projects, and I'm doing all the billing and everything else. So, like, I know where everything is. I know how it's all laid out, and it is a hot mess, and he can't handle even being in that office with me.
Yeah, I need order. It kind of like freaks me out if it's too much.
I'm just I like to be involved with every day, every job.
Yeah.
So I'm still involved with every job, every customer, literally. So like I'm still planning it. Like we probably are past the point that I should be doing that.
Yeah.
But that's my passion. So
You think you'll ever get out of the weeds?
maybe a little bit, but not. I don't know. It's just like I'm not saying I'll probably go to every single job every single day.
Yeah.
But I definitely will be visiting job sites every day, every week,
Forever, I
forever.
think.
Yeah.
That's just because
That's the part that he loves.
That's the part I love.
Yeah, if that's
his
what you love.
biggest strength, like certain people have certain strengths and that God put inside of them. And like for him, he doesn't have to write down a schedule. I mean, we have 30 employees. He knows where everybody is every day. There's certain people, personalities don't work as well together. And so he just manipulates the schedule to where the guys that don't work as well together don't work together. Or if there's an issue, he just circulates them for a while. But with all of these job sites and all of these people, I would have to have like an insane calendar and everybody written out and their names and everything. And he just totally, it just comes to him and he can just see through, like sometimes you can just see through all of the stuff that trips people up and see a clear vision. And that's him on scheduling. So
like
with
Neo in the
contractors,
Matrix.
they're always tripping over, like in my whole career, I've worked with contractors and they would schedule us for flooring to come in behind, to be the next sub up. And they'd call me, I'd call them, 3 days ahead of time. Hey, just want to make sure we're good for the schedule. And the day of, they're texting me or calling me that morning, being like, I'm not going to be ready for 2 weeks. And I was like, 3 days ago, you were ready for today.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where's the confusion here?
Right.
And so he just sees through all of that. And so what I think what keeps us on, we might be a little bit more expensive, but what keeps us on the level playing field at the end of the day is he's so efficient with his calendar that somebody else is going to cost you money because they're tripping all over themselves on the calendar.
100%. And I feel like when, like anything that's of value, like if you're sitting there like pinching pennies, like it's just not for you. Does that make sense? Like for me, like as a trainer and like as a coach, like I don't want to be everybody's coach because not everybody can afford me, and that's totally fine.
But that's okay.
And you know what I mean? Like you can go with the cheaper trainer, you're not going to get the same results. Like that's totally fine. So like you set a standard and you stick to it. You know what I mean? Like, So some people just get hung up too much on like an arbitrary like dollar amount, and they don't. I mean, the value is where it's at, right? You guys are providing value.
We have a lot of customers that, very good customers, and like you said, every customer is a repeat customer. That's why we'd rather lose money, because we go back, we go back and we go back and we go back for 15 years. There are customers. Like the house I'm building right now is for a customer that I've been working for 12 years. We did their kitchen at their house, and now we're building them a new home. We're building 2 new homes, and both of them were from customers of 12 years ago. So they remembered us. They knew the work we did. They knew the attention to detail, and they come back. So that's the difference, is like if you lose money on this one deal, you just keep moving forward. That's just part of business, because you need a happy customer, because that customer is going to be not just a one-time deal unless you make it that way.
Yeah.
And that's what I think where a lot of contractors mess up, because they're so focused on that right then and there. They're not looking at the big picture.
Or they're trying to focus on what's next, because it's tough, because right now we're in the middle of a huge renovation that we put a year of planning into before it began. And so now that it's going, I've already thought through all those details for a year. Now it's coming to fruition, but as much as my focus is on it and managing it, it's also forward focused for what the jobs are coming up, because it takes me that long to plan for the next project.
Year planning, right?
And so that's the hard part, is I think contractors are also like in the middle of what they're doing, forward focusing for what's next, but a lot of them don't button everything up perfectly at the end, and so you've got this undone thing and it trails off or it never gets finished, or it's just a lot of things have made the industry have a bad name.
Well, I wonder how many contractors are like taking the initiative of like seeking a performance coach, right? So for the listeners, I just recently sat down with Ben Newman, and that episode will be dropping soon, but he's the one who like put you guys on my radar. And it's funny, I used to live like right down the road here, so I drove by this building all the time. Yeah. And it's a very unassuming building, because like it's so nice in here, and then it's just it's just like a plain brick building, but it's just it's beautiful in here. How many contractors are going out and seeking help from top world-class performance coaches?
Unfortunately, I think in the industry it's just kind of dumbed down, right? And so a lot of guys I think a lot of people, if there's a standard where good enough is good enough, they just live by it. Yeah. Instead of just going ahead and stepping up to the plate and saying like, that's not my standard though. Right. Like enough is enough. Right. And so I want to start holding camps. In the next couple of years, I'm trying to figure out how to hold camps for teenagers to come and spend a week or 2 weeks with our team. And if it depends on if they're more IT minded, I'll put them with my part of my team that's geared towards that, or if it's media, or if it's design, or maybe scheduling, or whatever part out in the field, so that they can get a taste of it. And then my idea is to have a flip house that we're working on, and have these kids have it all worked out for the scheduling, and have the kids working towards this idea of this house, and then to surprise them and bring them to the actual house that they've been working on for the 2 weeks. Oh wow! Because that's the difference. School can't give them like the real life, right? Like it's an interpretation of it. Yeah, like the real world experience just it trumps any theory, right? Yep. And that's the thing, right? Like so, I went to Lindenwood, and like I got my degree, and I went back and I got my master's in healthcare administration, because I thought it was just going to be like, this is what you're supposed to do, because I was working at Express Scripts and this is the healthcare industry, but everything they're teaching you is theory, right? You know what I mean? And half of all graduates don't even work in their field. So I think it is a great way for young teens to be able to come in and say like, I think I like this, but then it can like capture their heart if that's really what's for them. Yeah. Give them a true vision of what it really is to be in this industry. Right. Now, what are some of the common
I don't know, like pitfalls or like things that you like run into during a project? Like what are some things that people should be like looking out for, or be thinking about whenever they're going through renovations, or, you know, common issues you guys deal with?
I think sometimes it gets worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
That's
I
for
think
sure.
Keep that in mind at all times.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that we kind of we prepare them for it though. So we might be a little bit more on, like if they compare our bid to somebody else's bid in the beginning, we might come out of the gate with sticker shock, but in the end, it's probably the same price. Or anyone that has done business with us will pay that a little extra to get that end result, because they know that.
Well, it's not just the end result, it's the entire experience. So like if it has to do with design or anything from the office or billing or whatever, they can call me. And if it has to do with construction or anything like that, they can call him.
Yeah.
And so like knowing that it's not just somebody at the office will answer your call. Like specifically, we're going to take care of what your
Right.
problem is, and like we're going to solve the problem right now. And it doesn't matter if it's 9 o'clock at night. I don't prefer calls at 9 o'clock at night, but I sure will take them, because you deserve to have a good night's sleep, not panicking over what's going on at your house just because you didn't understand quite what was going on.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and sometimes you just got to talk through it.
Right.
And sometimes that's when they just got off work and it's the first time they're seeing their house in 2 days.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So, like on the construction side, like what kind of things do you run into? I noticed like on the vlog, like out of nowhere there
Termite
was
damage.
like termite damage,
Yeah.
like water damage,
That doesn't
mold.
happen much.
It's
though.
just, those are the unforeseens.
I just feel like these are just like probably common things.
yeah,
like
they're
that
so common.
It really
though.
doesn't happen much, though, I feel like.
Yeah.
Less times.
It's
It's
when
a-
you're doing a new build, you're going to run into getting out of the ground. Meaning
Yeah.
like plastic soils. We just dug a foundation, and as we were digging, we ran into like just an entire thing of tires, rubber tires. So we had to continue to dig like 15 feet down to get them all out.
Oh, wow.
Which is an extra expense, but you can't put a foundation on top of that.
And who
Right.
could have foreseen that?
Yeah, like those are things
Right.
that you.
I thought he was going to say like rock or something.
Yeah.
But tires, 15 feet of
Yeah,
tires.
So somebody buried all that
That's a lot.
years ago. It was like an old farm. So someone buried it. So we had to, call the homeowner, address the issue, solve it. And it's really just solving the problem. That's the thing.
Well, we never hide from a problem. I
Right.
think that's a big difference from
Yeah.
contractors. Is I think a lot of contractors like almost don't say anything, hoping it'll go away.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, it doesn't. It almost snowballed on them in the meantime, which is harder to fix.
Yeah.
Versus like if we encounter a problem, most of the time I'm pretty direct, so
Yeah.
they'll likely hear from me. But it's after like we'll problem solve, and then
Yeah.
I'll confront it and say, all right, then we thought through it. Here's the options, and how would you like, how do you want? It's your house. How would you like for us to handle this?
Right. Yeah. Just address it head on.
Right.
Yep.
So many people try to go around obstacles. It's like
Yeah.
no, you go through the obstacles, right?
Yeah. Well, in confrontation, I think just generally people are afraid of upsetting people now.
Yeah.
Whereas like
We're in an outreach culture right now.
it's part of it. Life is upsetting sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's about how do you work through being upset.
Right. Right. Yeah. I always try to think about, like, there's so many things that could come up that people just don't think about, that are probably just, you guys are just so used to it. So I don't know if you had some advice for people who were maybe like flipping a home or something, like what are some common things to like look out for?
Well, it just depends.
Where do you start?
Where do we start, right?
Everybody right now is a flipper.
Yeah.
Like we do it for a living. So we're trying to I'm looking at one deal a day at least. And when I'm bidding against 18 people now, and last year I was bidding against one, or 2 years ago.
Yeah. It's just it's flooded.
Right, it's flooded. So but what you hear is sometimes that same deal will flop, and because they'll be reselling it halfway through the rent out.
Yeah.
And everyone thinks it's easy to do, but when you're doing an entire home, you got to watch out, because
You get buried in it.
it works for us because we've got 30 people.
We have
right?
employees, so
Yeah.
that's the difference. We're not subbing out every part and piece and paying a premium
Right.
for all the parts and pieces.
You're
Yeah.
completely vertically integrated.
And we can run the schedule tight.
Yeah.
We have our own painters, our own electricians, our own floor layers, our own framers, our own everybody. We have it across the board.
Yeah.
So we're not waiting on people. And so that's where I dissect it 20 years ago to now, is where I decided I found the niche as being a general contractor. Most of the general contractors around town, and there's some great ones, they typically don't have a lot of employees. They sub everything out.
Yeah.
And then when you get into remodeling, and there's not a lot of huge, like big remodel companies around town, there are a few. But where I found that to dissect the problem of waiting on the painting contractor, because you're in someone's home. So we do more remodeling than we do new construction. So when we're in somebody's home and you're waiting, you always are waiting on someone else. And I didn't want to wait on anybody else.
Yeah.
I can't keep the schedule rolling. I had a homeowner tell me when I finished his house, he said, you know what? I was here every single day, entire build. There wasn't one day that this house, there wasn't someone working. Instead of like you drive by houses and they're just sitting.
Yeah, they're sitting.
They're
All
waiting.
the time.
They're waiting
Waiting.
on the next contractor.
Yeah, to set them up.
Right. So we decided to go out and team up and get licensed in plumbing, get licensed in electrical, get our own painting crew. So I wasn't waiting on the painting contractor. Like literally, if the customer needs somebody, I send my painter there the next morning.
Yeah.
Not waiting on the material. That's where she came in. We can supply our own material. We can rush order. We're in charge of the whole thing. So instead of having subs, we brought them all in-house.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. So for us, the part where people get in such trouble with like flip houses is like they think it's a good idea. Maybe they buy a house and they can understand with a realtor that it's a $100,000 spread. First of all, not all realtors are equal. And so they don't always agree with what that spread is. So you can get in trouble, first of all, right out of the gate, thinking that your comps are bigger than what they are.
What do you mean the spread?
The spread on the comps of a house. So whenever I buy a house, let's say I buy a house for $150,000 and it needs a lot of work.
Okay.
And then my realtor says, you can sell this house for $250,000. And like the lay person or the guy trying to do a flip, he
Yeah,
would say like
that's easy math.
$100,000. That's
Right.
easy math. Like I can put $50,000 into this guy and
Make 50
I'm
grand.
going to make 50 grand.
But they're
Yeah.
forgetting about the closing fees, the real estate fees,
Yeah.
the negotiation at the
Like
end.
what if that comp wasn't accurate and it was 20,000 short?
What
Yeah.
if the house really only comps for for 220? You
Yeah.
know, so then all of a sudden
Your margin's dropping.
Just dropped.
Yeah,
And then there's likely when you go in, if you're not thinking through every single detail, there's more cost than what you were just excited about because you saw a $100,000 spread.
Right.
And so then it starts going backwards on you really fast. Like we had somebody in our office a couple days ago, and they said their check at the end, they did a flip, and they had to sub it all out and everything, and they thought it was going to be a good one. Their check at the end that they walked away with, and there was 2 people partnering, and it was $225.
a
Total
piece.
or each? Wow.
200 after months and months of
Well,
work.
they said
and
like 400, and I was like, 400? I thought they were talking 400 G's.
we were like,
Yeah.
what?
And I was like,
What?
I need to learn from you guys. And they're like, no, $400,
Yeah.
And so they're like, we just never did one again. And we found that we're good in this niche of marketing and finding the homes, and that's why we're coming to you guys. And I was
Yeah.
like, sweet, we can, that's
But
how
we
you.
have all the employees, so you almost have a cost in a sense for an employee
Yeah.
versus retail
Yeah.
hiring a subcontractor. And then on the retail on my product side, I'm a retail store, and so I'm paying cost for my products too.
Right.
So I'm hitting it on 2 sides at direct cost, which is a whole change in the game from your product side.
100%. Yeah. You almost have complete control of your margins at
Yeah.
that point. So what's keeping other people from doing this business model, you think? Like, why aren't other contractors like vertically integrating their business? Why are they subbing out all their work?
Well, I mean, don't get me
It's
wrong.
hard having employees.
There's a
Take
whole
the payroll
yeah.
on,
Yeah.
right?
Well, then you have a commitment.
You have a commitment, the payroll.
Insurance, I'm sure.
It's every day. I mean, you can't, if we say, hey, we're going to, like, if you think you got cushion for 1 minute of like, okay, we're set for the schedule, or we're set, like we're doing good financially, or we're going to go on vacation this week or whatever, you will feel that impact when you get, it's the bigger your payroll gets, and the bigger your company gets, and the bigger the jobs are going, because you got all these customers, you will feel that impact 2 months later.
Earlier this year, I did a bodybuilding show in September.
Okay.
And so I trained for it for a couple of months, and it put me in the gym 2 hours a day. And so I changed my work schedule, so I was in the office like 3 to 5 hours a day every week for that period. And it was hard to keep up with. I felt the pain of it going through it, but where I really felt the pain was in December.
Yeah.
Because I trained from, for 2 months up till the show at the end of September.
In the middle of the workday.
Yeah.
But where we felt it was for all the work that I wasn't there for, it takes time for those jobs to turn over. And so in December, we were like, ouch. I don't know
Yeah.
if I can do this again.
Yeah, because it's like the work you put in today, like you reap
It pays
those
off later.
Yeah, you don't ever really.
We do
see
a lot
those
of work
right
for
now.
nothing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just knowing it's going to pay off later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that a lot of people would. It's a lot of work. I mean, I get up every day at 3:45. That's how I met Ben Newman
Okay.
from the podcast on the MFCO
Because
podcast.
he wakes up early.
Well, he talked a big game, and he said, "I get up every day at 3:13, and every minute, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I get up every day at 3:45, and I want to see a guy outdo me, right? Because that's who I would want to coach me, is some guy that's going to be better than me, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So he said he gets up at 3:13 every day. So I literally I followed him
Watched
on
him.
all social media. I get up at 3:45. I would always go and see when he posted, and he posted. It would always say 20 or 30 minutes ago. So I did it for 2 years, and he never wavered.
He's so consistent.
He was so consistent, and I knew that every
So
day.
that's why I picked him. for
So
us.
yeah, I picked him because I hired him because I needed, like, he wasn't just saying something to look good on the podcast.
Yeah.
He was talking.
He's doing what he was saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's telling the truth and he's living.
And
by
so I
his
said to myself, well, then I want to hire that guy because he is like, I want to perform. I want to perform better, and he's performing, like, he's getting up earlier than me. He's the one that teaches you if you get up 20 minutes earlier each day is 12 days a year.
Yeah.
So that you get, so every hour, you times that by every hour that you get up earlier a day. Obviously, you probably heard
You're
all
adding
this.
days
Yeah, you just
to
do the
your
math.
life.
Yeah, you're
You
adding.
got, you got an extra month than the next guy.
Yeah, to be productive and to
Right.
work towards your goals. I feel like a lot of success is, I mean, you have to have like to produce quality work, and like you have to take pride in what you're doing. But a lot of it's just like showing people you're not going away.
Consistency.
So like I'm here
Right.
to stay, and like this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like take it or leave it. So now speaking of Ben, like he talks a lot about legacy, and like now you guys have employees. Like does that ever come into mind? Like do you guys think about like the legacy you're leaving, and like you're responsible for other people's livelihoods
Right.
now. You think about that?
Yep.
Does that motivate you?
Totally. That motivates me. That gets me out of bed. Besides my own family, that gets me out of bed every day because we want them to succeed. So we have a lot of opportunities for our employees to invest with us in different angles, and we have
We have a
several.
totally different culture going on.
We have
here.
several employees that are investing with us because we allow them to. Like, I want them to be successful. I want them to make a lot of money.
It's like a
working
balloon. We want it to be
here.
a balloon effect. If we go up, we want everybody with us to go
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
And so it's working. We've got some really unbelievable teammates, and
We
have,
encourage, like we speak life into our company. I feel like though, like once a month, every month, we do a team building exercise. So we might go play paintball. We just played paintball a couple
Right.
weeks ago.
Yeah, I talked to
or
Josh that same day.
yeah, whatever it is. Like every month, we're going bowling. We're going laser tag. Well, whatever
it's
it
just
is.
team building with everyone, and it's like a family here. Literally, if you ask any guy here, it's literally like a family. I have 2 guys that want to get a tattoo of my logo on them.
Really?
And I'm like, and they haven't done it yet, but I said I'll pay for it. If you guys are willing to do it, I'm definitely going to pay for it because that just means like.
I mean,
know.
Yeah, I mean that's true.
That's
like,
die hard.
It really is. Like
Yeah.
they believe in like what you're doing. That speaks to like the community and the culture that you're
Right.
building. Which I feel like any successful business, if you're building a culture, then you're building. It's bigger than the business at that point, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you said, it family.
So for me, like I didn't really come from much at all, and so ever since I was younger, I was like the first one of my friends that went and got a job because I was like, having nothing is not good enough for me.
Yeah.
Like just being the standard is not good enough for me, and so for me, like for when you talk about legacy, like I needed to change the game for my family. Like I was tired of seeing and hearing my family members like in the constant struggle.
Yeah.
And I wanted my children to see something different. Like you're going to struggle if you don't have money, and you're going to struggle and work a lot if you do have money.
Yeah.
And so like which end of the spectrum do you want to be on?
Yeah. Pick your struggle.
Like stick with it, be consistent, and work your ass off at it.
Yeah. 100%.
And so it's going to change your legacy. It's going to change the game. Like my kid's life isn't going to be the same.
Yeah.
Is where I came from.
If you want to be an entrepreneur, you got to do it 365 days a year.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you can't spend time with your family. Doesn't mean you can't settle down on the weekends. It doesn't mean you have to grind every single day, but you can't have to always have that mindset 365 days a year.
Yeah.
So when you can do that deal on a Saturday or a Sunday, you got to go do it. You can't just say, well, we'll
We just
worry
take our
about that
kids.
Monday. Yeah, you take your kids with you and we go look at flip houses.
Yeah.
You know, whatever, and then they run her through them, and then we go out to lunch.
Yeah.
And we've made several of our deals on a
Yeah.
Sunday with our kids when other
And it's
people
just
say
like
they don't
a
have
stop,
time.
like we're running errands, and so they don't know. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
just part of what we do.
It's just normal life. Like you're
My
teaching
kids
them.
love houses. Like my 2-year-old, every house is being built. He said, "Mom, there's K-Build." And I was like, "Well, not that one, buddy." Every house in his mind.
Yeah, in
if
his
it's
mind,
being
it's all
built,
you guys.
it's K-Build.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the time thing is, I hear that so much, and trust me, I'm still trying to figure out how to get more time in my day, but everyone has the same amount of time, right? I'm still trying to figure out how the guys that, you know, are at the 100 million to $1 billion companies are doing it because they got the same amount of time, right? Are they outworking me? I don't know that. Obviously they are somehow, but like, what are they doing different? And that's what intrigues me to get better every day, because they have the same amount of time I do. So like, that's where I'm trying to chase that right there, because to get, basically, if you can get better every day by this much,
Yeah.
and you look back and you in a
Change
year,
your curve.
It
you've
really
just
does.
changed the entire
Outcome.
outcome.
Yeah, I find a lot of people they'll look at like where the end goal is, where they're trying to get to, and instead of focusing on just like a little incremental every day, they just get overwhelmed by like that big picture. And it's just like
Right.
if you just do a little bit every day, like you'll get there, wherever there is.
And that's on life. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter if
doesn't
it's a
matter.
diet. It doesn't matter if it's your workout. It doesn't matter if it's work, your finances. You need to save a little bit each day. If you need to make this much more a week, and you got to figure out how, you know, like it doesn't matter what level you're at either.
Yeah.
Go cut grass. Go cut 1 yard a week. Whatever it is on the extra time. Like there's a way for everything.
Yeah.
And I just use it from my example from planking, and it gets been.
Yeah,
Because
talk about
literally,
that.
I don't know, I don't know the actual, like, I don't really remember the 100% the article I was reading and exactly what it said, but it said something like, if you can plank 5 minutes straight, you're like in
You're a
the
stud.
you're like a pro athlete, like
Yeah.
in the, like we're the kind of the guys that, you know, guys that do CrossFit or whatever. Like I don't know the right terminology, and I was
It's
like,
like an elite athlete.
yeah, and I was like, that's not hard. And
Okay,
so,
says he's planking like 20 minutes a day, and he's like, I stopped because like I can't take up any more of my
Well,
time in my day. And I was like,
how that started though is I was like, that doesn't seem hard to me. So then I tried it, and I was like 1 minute and 20 seconds, and I was just shaking, you know, and I'm like, you know, and I was
that's
like,
weird because I can do like 3 minutes.
that's so, well, you know, I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, I'm like, I didn't never thought that would be that hard, right? So then I just decided to do 1 second more a day. That was it. And so 2 years later, I do 20 minutes every day.
just
And
by
so
adding 1 second a day.
by adding,
That's how he got up to the 20 minutes.
and now I've been
Wow.
doing 20 minutes a day for like 6 months straight, because what am I supposed to, it just takes so much of my workout up, right? I meet my workout partner at 5, so I have to get there at 4:40 so that I can plank 20 minutes before he shows up, because he doesn't want to just wait around on me.
He says, I walk in, he said, Josh is just sitting over there being a table.
So yeah, that's the thing. It's like, it doesn't matter what aspect. If you do that little bit
You
and you
tweak
look
it.
back in 1
Makes
year, you
huge
see how
change.
far you've come.
Yeah.
If you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to save money, if you're trying to make more money, like if you just do a little bit more.
Like what Ben said, Ben encourages us to, like, let's say, for example, like I want to write a book. I want to do a fitness book for like a simple, almost like very simple how-to, because I didn't grow up in a world of fitness.
Right.
Whereas Josh really did. He is the healthiest, most consistent person I've ever met in my life. And so like it's been learned for me. It wasn't ingrained in me.
Yeah.
And so like if I just had simpler, helpful tips, I'm fortunate and I love being able to have a trainer, but not everybody has that capability. And so I'm like thinking if this book can like encourage them without a trainer to simplify it and let them feel like they know what they're doing when they walk in.
Yeah.
So the book definitely is not going to write itself.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to find much more time between work and my 4 children. And so Ben just said, you know, if that's something that you really want to do, try to find 15 minutes a day. Can you carve out 15 minutes a day and say, like, is this important enough to you for 15 minutes?
Right.
And so, like, for 15 minutes, block out everything and be laser focused and just pour 15 minutes into it. And then see where you come after a year.
Yeah.
As opposed to being a year and just being like, I don't have any time, because in your mind you'd say, like, people, like, stop working to write books.
They take months on it.
Yeah. And so,
yeah.
like, what if you just spent 15 minutes? And then that way I get to do what I'm doing and do what I love and still accomplish some of these other goals. So it doesn't matter what it is, if it's a book or whatever that is that you're trying to accomplish. we want to do more flip houses. So Josh is, spending his time like it's intentional.
Right.
It's about
Yeah.
being intentional with your
That's
time.
a strong word, like intention. Like, you know what I mean? Because so many people, they do things with like no real purpose.
They just live it.
Yeah. They're just kind of like floating through
Intentional
life.
living is so powerful.
It's so much more powerful because, I mean, you have a purpose with what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So we're coming up on an hour. I want to be respectful of your guys' time. I know you got to get back to running your business. But, like, what's in the future for you guys? I mean, obviously, you're building, like, an amazing business. Like, where do you see your guys' self going from here?
Well, I mean, you can go ahead
Can
and
you take that one?
you
Yeah.
can answer that if you'd like.
All right. Well, I think we're always looking into like social media and branding and that kind of stuff. So I think that's just, part of growing and trying to understand that side of the industry. But like for my product side, we launched a website. So now you can buy our floors online. So that's launched. And so we're working on ClickFunnels and seeing like how to make that work and generate traffic and all of that. But like for the long haul, to me, like we do things different. Like the system is different than the industry. And so like my goal would be to create a system that, people can log into our system, or I can sell the system to perfect the way that other contractors are doing it everywhere. There's not any reason that this industry should have a bad name.
Right.
But when you don't tell people the truth and you have part of their heart involved in it,
Yeah.
the outcome is never really that great.
Yeah, sometimes people might look at contractors almost like how like mechanics get about it. Like there's just
Yeah.
no trust, right?
Right.
Because they know that you guys have all the knowledge and I don't know a damn thing. So it's like,
Scary.
yeah, it can be very scary. And like you definitely want to trust who you're working with.
Well, and so part of it is they're tripping over themselves because they don't have a good system in place. I've seen contractors that like, I want to hire them. I want to work with them like for a subcontractor, but like they don't call me back on time. And they don't show up to their meeting because they just didn't put it on their calendar.
Yeah.
Because they're busy working in the field, doing the work, and then they're not getting the background done. And so like if they had a system that was easy for them to access and like,
Right. Just a little bit more professionalism there.
but it's
Yeah.
just growth. We love to see growth. I'd love to have more apartments.
Yeah, the
I
whole
want
thing
everything.
is we're
wanna do
really
everything.
We're
growing
gonna do it
our
all.
social
You
media
guys are
platform.
on St. Peter
right.
soon.
Well, that's the thing is I want everyone to know, who we are. And I
Yeah.
want them to know who we are for a reason, like no matter what. And we've built that brand very well so far. But we're not even near where we're just scratching the surface.
I think it's sometimes you feel like inside of you, like when you're doing a project or something and you're like, it's not there yet. It hasn't,
It's
something's missing.
Yeah, you can just feel it.
You just feel it. And so both of us are like, we just feel it. Like it just feels like we're just scratching the surface.
Just getting started.
Yep.
This is just the
I
beginning.
know it's been 20 years, but we're just
finally
getting started.
now,
yeah.
it's just getting started.
And that's the
Yeah.
thing, though, is if I didn't do this for 20 years and have that experience of all the times that wasn't growing and the times that we did fail, I wouldn't have learned how to continue to grow.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. Is like I don't like to fail. I hate to lose. I love to win.
Turn your
But-
failure into success, though.
But every time you do, you learn from it. Like just on a simple idea of like a flip from a construction point of view. If you fail at that flip, you don't say, I'm not going to do another one. You say,
What did you assess it?
Yeah,
you
you learn
assess
and
it
grow.
and you say, did I put too much money into it? Did I do, what
Did I
was
do
it? Did I
unnecessary
buy
things?
the wrong house because of these problems? And you just take that loss and you move into the next deal, because,
I think fear holds a lot of people back, too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just being afraid, of taking the risk, just not believing in themselves.
Yeah. It's not comfortable, but nothing great comes from comfort.
I think
Yeah.
what makes us powerful together is how much we believe in each other. So
That's
if
a
he
big
ever
thing.
doubts himself, I'm like, what? Are you crazy? You can totally do it. Or he'll come in and I'll say, this is the design. And he's like, you're out of your damn mind. I cannot, Rauchel, that's not realistic. I don't even think, and I said, hey, I measured it all. I calculated it. You told me a long time. If I can design it, you can build it. So what is holding you back?
This is the deal.
This is you. This is you. Run with it. And so I think for both of us, I know he believes in me, which gives me strength, and I believe in him.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. So tell folks how they can get a hold of you and your socials and everything. I'll put it
Okay.
in the show notes as well. But
It's
just
kbuildit.com is our website. Kbuild Design is YouTube. Kbuild Design is Instagram. And then just Kbuild on Facebook.
okay. Great. Hey, thank you guys so much again.
Thanks. This has been fun.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. All right, everybody. Until next time.